this month's column, I talk about compositing and how I think it's such an important aspect as a photographer for product offerings, something to distinguish you from average Joe with camera that knows how to take decent photographs. When you know how to use Photoshop and you know how to do compositing, it really can add a new product offering. But having said that, you don't want to take forever to do compositing. You want to be able to do it quickly and easily. And that's really the goal of this column. And what I want to talk about in this video is how to get it done quickly and easily and get a believable result. And that's a big part of it. Unless you're deliberately trying to go for that kind of fantasy look where someone's on a background that doesn't even make sense, a lot of the time in compositing we want to make it look believable. So someone has to kind of look twice and think, is that person really standing in that picture or not? And in the article I talk about some of the ways to do that. And in this video I want to talk about one other thing, which is hair. Now I don't have that problem personally, but usually one of the biggest challenges for people is masking hair. And you can really improve your chance of success with two main things. The first is when you're taking the photograph, resist the temptation to use the wind machine or have the model tossing her hair in the wind, because that just makes it more challenging. And when you also just make sure you're seeing any kind of flyaway hairs before you take the photo. But the other thing we can do is, masking is one thing, but sometimes frankly it's just really hard to get all the hair and make it look realistic. So I'm going to show you now a little tip in Photoshop. It's actually a cool little trick where you actually add more hair in to make it look more believable. Here's how it works. So here we have our subject in our new background using the steps that were in the article, but at this point I want to really make sure that I'm getting a more realistic result in terms of hair. Now let's take a look at the layer mask. I'm going to Option or Alt click on the layer mask to view it, and that's really a pretty good mask. When you see this kind of very light gray like that, it means there's a little bit of hair there, and we might accentuate it a little bit more by painting on the mask. But the other thing we can do is this special way of kind of adding in more hair. And what we're going to do is add a new layer on top, take our paintbrush, and here's the change we're going to make. First of all, let's put the opacity up. I'm going to choose a hard edge brush, and I'm going to make it anywhere from 1 to 3 to 4 pixels depending on the resolution of your photo. In this case I think probably 2, and I'll just do a quick brush stroke to see. That's probably that's a little too thick, but I'll leave it at that so you can see it. I might change it. Now the first time you do this is going to take some setup, but then you can save this as a brush you use all the time. And I usually start with a contrasting color like I have red right now, just so as I'm testing the brush I can really see what's happening, and then once we're ready we'll paint it using the correct color. So once we've done that, then we go to the brush setting, and here's where we make one specific change. We go to Shape Dynamics, and where it says Control. Now theoretically you could do it if you had a Wacom tablet with pen pressure, but this way I like better because it just does it automatically. So we choose this setting called Fade. Now the challenge is it's asking me to put a number, and the question is 25 what? Is it pixels? Is it some measurement? No, it's this wonderful thing called steps, which means I have no idea. So really what I do is keep this open, I move over to my document, and I drag a little brush stroke and go, all right, that was a little too fast, undo that, and let's try 50. And then do another brush stroke. And see how it fades out really quickly? That's what that amount does here. The higher the number, the longer it will take to fade out. So I can't give you the number to use because of course it will depend on your photo. I'm going to probably try something like 40. Actually, I should undo that other one first. I think that's going to work for me. And I'm still not convinced. I think the starting pixel width is a little too big maybe, but I want to make sure you can see what I'm doing. Keep in mind also that we're zooming in here. So I have a blank layer, so that means wherever I paint, the result is going onto that blank layer, so I can still adjust it. And the real trick to this happens, our model here has purple hair, which is making it easier to see, is to hold down Option or Alt and sample the hair color right there, and then you paint in a few strokes. And I'm deliberately kind of, again, going overboard so you can see it. But anytime you change to a different position, Option or Alt click, and then just do a few little hairs. And I will remind you, we are zoomed in quite close, so we're probably seeing results that are looking more evident. So at a certain point, I would be zooming back out again to look at it in the context of the actual size. And there's nothing to say you have to just do this kind of thing up here of adding more hair. You can also go over parts, like down here I think I might want to just add a few more little hairs following what's already there, just to try and make sure there aren't any little gaps which are kind of give away what I'm doing. So that's the idea. And again, it doesn't look like much, but just turning that on and off, you can start to see what it does. And if we go back to a more reasonable size, it's going to be even more subtle. But the point of this is just to distract the eye where people tend to look at hair, because that's the one part that would probably be the hardest to do. Now, once you've done that, not that it took that long, but one of the things we can do now is once you have set the fade amount to what you want, one of the options is you can make a new brush preset and call it something like hair fade brush or something. So from then on, you just have to click on it, add a new layer, and sample the color, and you're off to the races. And in the article, when I talked about believability, this is one of the ways we can do it, is to fake it just enough that it fools the eye and makes things look that much more believable. In the article, I mentioned a few suggestions on how to have success in the world of compositing. The first one is drag the person on a new background first. That way, any decision you're making with refine edge and masking is in context to the new background. Secondly, look for ways to make it believability with shadows and lighting and things like this example of adding in hair. When you do these things, you can get compositing done a lot more quickly, and now you've got a great new product to offer to your clients. I'm Dave Cross. We'll see you next time.